What's happening out there, fellow humans? I hope you're all feeling fantastic in your worlds. I have a fun video for you guys today. We're going to talk about some wildly over-the-top cheesy movies from one of the most wildly over-the-top and delightfully cheesy decades, that being the 1980s. So let's get into 5 movies from the 1980s in no particular order that are so cheesy, they're actually kind of awesome.
Hey, fat kid. Good job.
My name is Horace.
Now, nothing is quite as cemented in the 1980s as WWF wrestling was, and in my first pick, Hulk Hogan would step out of the ring and into the studio for 1989's No Holds Barred. Now, in this movie, Hogan basically plays an alternate version of his wrestling persona, and yes, it's ridiculous on every single level, yet as a kid who watched wrestling up until about the ages of 15 or 16, there is a ton of appealing nostalgia in watching what is essentially a full-length WWF vignette setting up the feud and final showdown between Hogan's Rip and Lister Jr.'s Zeus after Hogan refuses to sign a contract with this ruthless TV mogul. Admittedly, it is elementary storytelling at best. The acting isn't that good at all, but I mean, it's aimed for preteen boys who liked wrestling, and that is the mood and the atmosphere that this movie definitely rekindles when watching. The tone itself is extremely odd. This movie is clearly aimed for kids, yet it gets pretty violent in places with no hesitation for mixing in some killing. This one has seedy bars where guys fight sometimes to the death, and Tiny Lister Jr. as Zeus was extremely raw, but also humorous as this cinder block punching villain, and Hogan is draped in just one spandex outfit after another, while also teasing a ridiculously absurd romantic interest with a stunning Joan Severance, which kinda plays out like a caveman trying to appeal to a goddess. Nothing really about this movie is critically good, but with a quick pace and an awkwardly violent finale, all the melodrama here can certainly remind you of the eccentric movies of the 80s and really when the power of Hulkamania was running its wildest.
To all my little Hulksters, all the way to all my big Hulkamaniacs, I'm laying out a personal invitation to come on down and see my new movie.
From the world of wrestling, we step into the world of surfing for my next pick, and that is 1987's North Shore, starring Matt Adler, Gregory Harrison, and, to be honest guys, the first love of my life, the talented, the lovely, the stunning Nia Peoples.
You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and I don't deserve you.
He's right in the right place at the right time once again. He's pulling up into the pocket, getting covered by the barrel.
This flick centers on Matt Adler, who plays a teenager that has dreams of professional surfing, but he soon learns that the tides of the local wave tanks in Arizona are nothing like those in the ocean when he travels to Hawaii's North Shore, and quickly learns that both surfing and fitting in with island life are going to be much more than he ever bargained for. Now, the story progression in this movie is simplistic, but there is some heart to the performances. The acting is admittedly a little bit shaky in places, but it's more than serviceable, and I think Gregory Harrison certainly comes in to cement the cast, but I think where this movie thrives is just in the escape into the world of surfing that it provides. The surfing and the camera work are extremely capable. There are just tons of great shots, and it can certainly pull you out into the waves. It also has a fantastic soundtrack with a stream of classic upbeat 80s tunes, and I think with all the tropical locations and the endless style, this movie does absolutely deliver the intended surfing adventure from the waves to the lifestyle. It just has that charming mentor storyline between Adler and Harrison, and it has the romantic angle between Adler and Peoples, and as simple as it was, this just has an endearing charm to it that can lure you in, and hoping that these two young lovers will have a chance at having a life together. So if you want to sit back and dip your toes into the culture of surfing in Hawaii, this is certainly a flick to check out. The story structure is certainly formulaic, but there is a ton of charm to it. It has plenty of time period charisma and just a lot of cheesiness to it that makes it a fun, nostalgic ride.
The movie Cocktail was taking the world by storm, and dishing out booze was the coolest job a guy could have.
Moving on to my next pick, we're going to be doing a little bit of bartending. We're talking 1988's Cocktail, starring Tom Cruise, Brian Brown, and Elizabeth Shue, a film that was so bad it actually won the Razzie for Worst Picture that year. Here, Tom Cruise plays a young, naive college student that gets swept up into the world of bartending in New York. He decides to take a job in Jamaica. He falls in love and quickly learns about the harsh realities of his actions and his dream professions through his friendship with his slick older mentor.
Beer is for breakfast round here. Drink or be gone.
This movie is more than a little bit superficial. It's got a ton of cheesy melodrama. It's splashed with some blatant misogyny. None of the characters outside of Shue, I would say, are overly likable, but there is a time period appeal to be had when revisiting this movie. I think Tom Cruise certainly is charming as this naive kid who definitely learns the hard way at every step, and Brian Brown comes in to fill the movie with a lot of energy as this mentor who is clearly harboring some dark inner demons. It's a bit uneven in terms of the tone. It certainly does have its light moments when the party is in full swing. However, there certainly are some dark story layers that are explored as well. But I think seeing Cruise and Brian serve drinks and dispense life wisdoms is surprisingly fun. It's a sexy movie. It's a bit edgy, and it does accomplish this by honestly glorifying some darker themes. But this was the 80s, where movies often disregarded messaging for the sake of style and appeal and edginess, so I would certainly recommend this one to revisit the era and to experience a surprising amount of guilty pleasure entertainment as Cruise and Brown navigate life, friendship, cocktails, and the consequences of one's actions. For my next pick, we're stepping into the world of horror with 1989's Shocker, written and directed by Wes Craven, starring a very young Peter Berg prior to his change to directing, and Mitch Pileggi, the X-Files guy, as the sadistic Horace Pinker.
The programming of several local stations during the last several minutes.
That's the way it is.
This fantasy-driven slasher centers on TV repairman Horace Pinker, who just so happens to be a brutal serial killer that is turned in by a football player from the local high school. He's sentenced to the electric chair, but after that he comes back from the dead to live in the currents of electricity so that he can unleash his revenge on this innocent teenager that also has a subconscious connection to him. Now, many would consider this to be Wes Craven kind of borrowing from his own work in A Nightmare on Elm Street, and yes, there are many similarities in this one from top to bottom. However, I still think that all these pieces work to make a fun, gritty slasher with endless amounts of 80s style. It has a charming, dated, just atmospheric tone that I think is created by the stream of metal music and the gloomy visuals, and I'll admit, Pileggi is no England, but as Horace Pinker, he brings just, I would say, plenty of sadistic charm to the role, and the small budget certainly does show, but I think it also kind of adds to the nostalgia, and despite the budget limitations, I think the special effects in this movie were pretty cool for the time, so where this movie lived was, I would say, borrowed ideas. I think it certainly did make up for it with spots of ambition, because seeing Pinker and a young Peter Berg battling it out inside the channels of the television was awesome back then, and it's still pretty cool now. And sure, this movie didn't launch a new franchise for Craven, but it's still a classically cheesy 80s horror flick that has garnered a cult following over the years. The acting isn't perfect, and much of the storyline is, I would say, nonsensical at best, but Pinker's killing spree and just relentless pursuit of a young Jonathan through electrical currents and body swapping, all set to heavy metal music, is nothing if not 80s awesomeness. And with that, we've reached my final pick, and with that one, we're diving into a classically cheesy actioner from 1989 starring Patrick Swayze, Sam Elliott, and Kelly Lynch. That's right, people, we're talking about Dalton, we're talking about the Double Deuce, we're talking about Roadhouse. You guys know the plot of this one here. Swayze stars as the tough but always cool bouncer Dalton, who's hired to clean up a rough bar in a small town called the Double Deuce. When he crosses a villainous local businessman, Dalton calls in his old friend Wade Garrett to help in dispensing some barroom ass kicking, all the while hoping that his newly found love doesn't get in the way. This movie is classic 80s cheese from top to bottom. Swayze actually passed on a co-starring role in Tango and Cash for this one, but he oozes the perfect amounts of sexy machismo to make it work. It is standard action movie storytelling, but it serves up a ton of fun barroom brawling to make it work. And admittedly, yeah, it's all entry-level fight choreography, but it works. This is just kind of one of those movies that feels like a step back in time, so it's kind of hard to fault it too much for its simplicity. Swayze is cool as can be. He kicks plenty of ass while making the blouses work, and a hair-covered Sam Elliott and his iconic mustache serve in as an even cooler mentor to him. And this movie, despite the violence, has this softer vibe to it throughout until the closing act, when it gets just surprisingly bloody and graphic and fun. I don't think the tone would really work today. I'm not sure it really worked back then, because it certainly is odd. But these weird tonal shifts mixed with the country soundtrack, the bravado, the cheesy villains, just make everything a good time when it comes together. Kelly Lynch in here is the sultry love interest. He makes the most of a softly written role. It has spots of gratuitous sex and nudity to cement itself as a true 80s action romp. And watching Swayze in full training mode out in the yard is the definition of action melodrama. And that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this look back at a collection of some eccentric movies. If you'd like to see any of these flicks covered in more depth with its own throwback review, please let me know down in the comments. If one of these movies gets a good amount of votes, I'll definitely make plans to cover it more in detail. And as always, guys, be on the lookout for the next video coming very, very soon.